He is responsible for engineering a narco-trafficking and narco-terrorism program that we have not seen in a long time.
Ryan Wedding was sitting on a fortune so massive it sounded unreal, $500 billion hidden in plain sight. But when investigators finally cracked the surface, only $13 million was recovered, raising terrifying questions about what's still missing and who might be protecting it. The Olympian who became a fugitive. Ryan Wedding competed in the halfpipe event at the 2002 Winter Olympics in Salt Lake City. He represented Canada. He was 20 years old. He came from Coquitlam, British Columbia. He did not medal at those games. 10 years later, Wedding was indicted in California for drug trafficking. The U.S. Department of Justice accused Wedding of leading a transnational drug trafficking organization. Prosecutors claimed he used Montreal as the starting point for a cocaine empire that stretched across continents. The operation allegedly began in the early 2000s. By 2014, federal prosecutors had filed charges against him. Wedding did not appear in court. He fled. For the next decade, Wedding lived as a fugitive. U.S. authorities believe he directed his organization from locations in Mexico and other countries. The FBI claims his organization imported up to 60 metric tons of cocaine annually. The cocaine came from Colombia. It moved through Mexico. It entered the United States through Southern California. From there, it went to Canada and other American cities. The organization used semi-trucks to transport the product. They communicated through encrypted channels. The FBI placed Wedding on its 10 most wanted fugitives list in March 2025. The initial reward for information leading to his capture was $10 million, although the State Department later increased that reward to $15 million. At the time, this was the highest reward ever offered for a drug trafficker. Wedding was not just wanted for moving cocaine. The federal indictments accused him of orchestrating murders. In 2023, 2 people were killed in Caledon, Ontario, Canada. Their names were Jagtar Singh Sidhu, 57, and his wife Harbhajan Kaur Sidhu, 55. Prosecutors say they were not the intended targets. The killings were a case of mistaken identity. Someone else was supposed to die that day. The dispute was drug-related. In 2024, another person was murdered in Canada. The indictment states this killing was over an unpaid drug debt. In January 2025, an FBI witness was killed in Colombia. Prosecutors allege Wedding placed a $5 million bounty on this witness. The witness had been cooperating with federal investigators. The witness was killed. In November 2025, the U.S. Department of Justice unsealed new indictments against Wedding. The charges included witness tampering, intimidation, murder, money laundering, and additional drug trafficking counts. On January 23, 2026, Ryan Wedding was arrested in Mexico. The circumstances of his capture became a point of dispute. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum posted a photo on Instagram showing Wedding at the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City. The image suggested he had surrendered voluntarily. Wedding's lawyer told a different story. His attorney is Anthony Colombo. Colombo is the grandson of a notorious mafia boss. He said the arrest was an FBI operation conducted in Mexico. He said it was not a surrender.
Not guilty, he says, on both. Right. Listen, you know, they're painting this guy to be El Chapo or what they compared him to Escobar. What are your thoughts on this?
You know, that's what the government has alleged. As you know, in this country, you're innocent until proven guilty.
Wedding was extradited to the United States the same day he was arrested. He arrived in handcuffs at Ontario International Airport in California. FBI Director Kash Patel announced the arrest. He described Wedding's organization as a murderous transnational drug smuggling empire.
And just to tell you how bad of a guy Ryan Wedding is, he went from an Olympic snowboarder to the largest narco trafficker in modern times. He is a modern-day El Chapo. He is a modern-day Pablo Escobar. And he thought he could evade justice.
3 days later, on January 26, 2026, Wedding appeared in court at the Ronald Reagan Federal Building and Courthouse in Santa Ana, California. He wore a beige jail uniform and black Crocs. He pleaded not guilty to 17 felony counts across 2 indictments. The charges included drug trafficking, conspiracy to commit murder, witness tampering, and money laundering. The judge ordered him detained without bail. As prosecutors continue to uncover Wedding's case, one major question lingers in everyone's mind, and that is, where did the money go? The billion-dollar operation. The scale of Ryan Wedding's alleged criminal enterprise defies easy comprehension. Federal prosecutors have described an organization that didn't merely traffic drugs, but operated as a sophisticated multinational business, generating revenue that would rival legitimate corporations. The numbers paint a picture of staggering wealth flowing through channels designed to remain invisible to law enforcement. According to federal indictments and DOJ announcements, the Wedding drug trafficking organization shipped approximately 60 metric tons of cocaine annually through its its distribution networks. To understand what this means in practical terms, consider that a single kilogram of cocaine can fetch anywhere from $25,000 to $35,000 at wholesale prices in North America. 60 metric tons equals 60,000 kilograms. Even at conservative wholesale valuations, the organization was allegedly moving product worth billions of dollars every single year. Prosecutors have explicitly stated that the enterprise generated over $1 billion in annual revenue. Over the roughly 15 years that Wedding allegedly operated his organization, from approximately 2011 until his capture in 2026, the cumulative revenue could theoretically have reached astronomical sums. Some estimates suggest the total could have accumulated to $5 billion or more over the lifespan of the operation, though the exact figures remain murky due to the inherently clandestine nature of the business. The cocaine originated in Colombia, where Wedding's organization allegedly maintained direct relationships with producers. From there, the product moved northward through Mexico, where the organization reportedly coordinated with elements of the Sinaloa cartel. This partnership provided Wedding's network with the logistical infrastructure and territorial access needed to move massive quantities of narcotics across borders without detection. The Southern California corridor served as the primary entry point into the United States. Wedding's operatives allegedly used semi-trucks to transport the cocaine across the border, blending their illicit cargo with legitimate commercial traffic that flows continuously between Mexico and the United States. Once the product entered American territory, it dispersed to distribution points throughout the country, with a significant portion continuing northward into Canada. The communication methods employed by the organization reflected a sophisticated understanding of law enforcement surveillance capabilities. Wedding and his associates allegedly relied heavily on encrypted communication platforms to coordinate their activities. These digital security measures allowed them to discuss shipments, negotiate prices, and issue orders while remaining confident that their conversations would not be intercepted by investigators monitoring conventional channels. Money laundering constituted a critical component of the operation's infrastructure. Moving billions of dollars in drug proceeds requires elaborate mechanisms to transform dirty money into assets that appear legitimate. The federal investigation revealed that Wedding's organization utilized cryptocurrency to launder substantial portions of their earnings. In one documented instance, investigators traced over $207 million transferred via Tether, a cryptocurrency designed to maintain a stable value relative to the US dollar. The use of cryptocurrency also offered several advantages to the organization. Digital currencies can be moved across international borders instantaneously without passing through traditional banking systems that maintain records and report suspicious transactions. The pseudonymous nature of cryptocurrency wallets makes it difficult to connect transactions to specific individuals without sophisticated blockchain analysis. And the sheer volume of cryptocurrency trading that occurs daily provides cover for illicit transfers that might otherwise attract attention. But cryptocurrency represented only one avenue for cleaning the organization's earnings. Physical assets also played a crucial role in the money laundering scheme. Wedding allegedly accumulated an extraordinary collection of high-value items that could store wealth outside the conventional financial system. These assets ranged from rare automobiles to art, jewelry, and other collectibles whose value could be realized through private sales that generate minimal documentation. The FBI described Wedding's operation in terms typically reserved for the most notorious drug lords in history.
Most importantly, you do not get to be a drug kingpin and evade the law. Make no mistake about it. Ryan Wedding is a modern-day iteration of Pablo Escobar. He's a modern-day iteration of El Chapo Guzman. This Justice Department and this FBI will work with our Canadian counterparts and the government officials across the world to bring him to justice.
The comparison to Pablo Escobar carries significant implications. Escobar, at the height of his power in the 1980s, was estimated to have controlled roughly 80% of the cocaine shipped to the United States. His personal fortune reached into the billions, making him one of the wealthiest criminals in history. By invoking Escobar's name, federal authorities signaled their belief that Wedding operated at a comparable scale of criminal enterprise. Yet some observers have questioned whether the government's characterization might be exaggerated. Media outlets have noted that the timing of announcements and the dramatic comparisons to legendary drug lords coincided with high-profile DOJ briefings, leading some critics to suggest that Wedding might be a hyped-up middleman rather than a true kingpin. The truth likely lies somewhere in the contested space between the government's claims and the defense's denials. What remains undisputed is that someone profited enormously from the cocaine that flowed through Wedding's alleged network. Billions of dollars changed hands over the years, and when authorities finally closed in, they found only a fraction of those earnings. The violence behind the empire. Drug empires do not maintain themselves through business acumen alone. The cocaine trade operates outside the protections of law, which means disputes cannot be resolved through courts or contracts. When problems arise, and this includes unpaid debts, disloyal associates, informants cooperating with authorities, the solutions tend to be permanent. The federal case against Ryan Wedding includes accusations of multiple murders that allegedly served to protect and expand his criminal enterprise. The violence attributed to Wedding's organization began claiming lives years before his name appeared on the FBI's most wanted list. Prosecutors have outlined a pattern of killings connected to the drug operation, each serving a distinct purpose in maintaining control over a business worth billions. The most haunting incident occurred in Caledon, Ontario in 2023. Jagtar Singh Sidhu and his wife, Harbhajan Kaur Sidhu, were killed in what prosecutors describe as a case of mistaken identity. The couple, aged 57 and 55 respectively, were not involved in drug trafficking. They were not the intended targets. Someone had apparently ordered a hit on another individual over a drug-related dispute, and the killers went to the wrong address or targeted the wrong people. The Sidhus became collateral damage in a war they never knew existed. Their deaths illustrate the indiscriminate nature of violence that radiates outward from drug trafficking operations, claiming victims who have no connection to the criminal underworld, but who happen to be in the wrong place or bear an unfortunate resemblance to someone marked for death. In 2024, another murder occurred in Canada. This killing, according to prosecutors, was more straightforward in its motivation. Someone owed money for drugs and failed to pay. The debt was settled through elimination rather than collection. Such killings serve a dual purpose in the drug trade. They recover nothing financially, but send an unmistakable message to others who might consider defaulting on their obligations. The most explosive allegation in the federal indictment concerns the January 2025 killing of a witness who had been cooperating with the FBI. This individual, identified in court documents as Victim A and in some reports as Archibedo Garcia, possessed information that could have proven devastating to Wedding's organization. The witness had agreed to provide testimony against Wedding and his associates. Prosecutors allege that Wedding responded to this threat by placing a $5 million bounty on the witness's life. $5 million represents an extraordinary sum for a contract killing, signaling both the resources at Wedding's disposal and the perceived importance of silencing this particular individual. The witness was subsequently murdered in Colombia, far from the protection of American law enforcement. The killing of a federal witness elevates the charges against Wedding into a different category entirely. Witness tampering and intimidation strike at the foundations of the justice system itself. Without witnesses willing to testify, prosecutions collapse. By allegedly ordering the murder of someone cooperating with investigators, Wedding demonstrated a willingness to challenge not just his competitors in the drug trade, but the authority of the government to hold him accountable. The assistant director in charge of the FBI's Los Angeles field office addressed the human toll directly during the press conference announcing Wedding's capture.
Today is a great day for the FBI and for our partners here today, specifically our partners at the RCMP, the LAPD, and the DEA, and so many other agencies at every level. But it's also a good day for the victims of this case. Ryan Wedding tormented several people and several families that will never be the same. But today, they get the justice that they sought.
The indictments also name co-conspirators who allegedly participated in the violent aspects of the organization's operations. Gursawak Singh Bal from Mississauga, Canada, faces charges of conspiracy to commit murder in connection with the case. The investigation has resulted in arrests of 36 individuals for their roles in the organization, suggesting a network of operatives willing to carry out orders that ranged from transporting cocaine to eliminating human beings. The violence extended beyond targeted killings to encompass the broader devastation wrought by the drugs themselves. 60 metric tons of cocaine per year represents millions of individual doses flowing into communities across North America. The overdoses, the addiction, the families destroyed, the lives derailed. These consequences don't appear in indictments as specific charges, but they constitute the underlying harm that drug trafficking prosecutions seek to address. Wedding's defense attorney has pushed back against the government's characterization of his client as a murderous kingpin. Anthony Colombo has emphasized that indictments are accusations, not evidence, and that the justice system requires proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
Does he look like Chapo to you? Does he look like Pablo Escobar to you? No. I mean, he's a former Olympic athlete, and I don't think that he's who they claim him to be.
The disconnect between Wedding's public image as a former Olympic athlete and his alleged role as a drug lord who ordered murders has contributed to the surreal quality of the case. Colombo himself acknowledged the cinematic nature of the accusations.
It's crazy the way they were saying like that he was being like kind of protected by the cartel and all this. Like, is this sounds like a movie more than anything.
I don't disagree. I'm sure that at some point somebody might make his life story into a movie.
Whether Wedding is ultimately convicted of the murders attributed to him remains to be determined by the courts. But what cannot be disputed is that people died, and prosecutors believe they can prove Wedding bears responsibility. The manhunt and capture. Ryan Wedding spent more than a decade evading American justice. From the moment he failed to appear for his 2014 indictment until his arrest in January 2026, he existed as a ghost, present enough to allegedly continue running his billion-dollar operation, but invisible enough to frustrate the investigators pursuing him. The manhunt that eventually brought him into custody required international cooperation on a scale that reflects the global nature of modern organized crime. The FBI elevated Wedding's status to their 10 most wanted fugitives list in March 2025. This designation carries significant weight within law enforcement. The 10 most wanted list has existed since 1950, and earning a place on it signals that an individual represents an extraordinary threat and has proven exceptionally difficult to apprehend. By the time of Wedding's arrest, he had become the 500th capture in the program's 75-year history. The initial reward offered for information leading to Wedding's capture was $10 million, already a substantial sum that indicated the government's determination to find him. When that amount failed to produce results, the State Department increased the reward to $15 million, making it the highest reward ever offered for a drug trafficker at that time. The escalation signaled both the priority authorities placed on the case and the frustrating difficulty of locating someone with the resources and connections to remain hidden. Wedding allegedly directed his operations from various locations outside the United States, with Mexico serving as his primary refuge. His connections to the Sinaloa cartel reportedly provided protection and infrastructure that kept him one step ahead of investigators. The cartel's territorial control in certain regions of Mexico created zones where American law enforcement could not easily operate, and where local officials might be susceptible to the corrupting influence of drug money. The investigation required coordination among agencies that don't always work seamlessly together. The FBI led the American effort, but the case also involved the Drug Enforcement Administration, Customs and Border Protection, and the Los Angeles Police Department's Gang and Narcotics Division. On the Canadian side, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police contributed resources and intelligence, given that Canadian citizens were among the victims and that Canada served as a major destination for the organization's cocaine shipments. The November 2025 unsealing of additional indictments marked a turning point in the investigation's public profile. The new charges, including witness tampering and murder, dramatically raised the stakes and intensified media coverage of the case. The DOJ's decision to publicize the charges coincided with increased diplomatic pressure on Mexico to assist in locating Wedding.
I also want to have a tremendous shout out to the government of Mexico. President Sheinbaum, Secretary Harfuch, and the military and law enforcement officers of Mexico worked hand in glove with our teams on the ground there to apprehend last night in Mexico City Ryan Wedding.
The arrest occurred on January 23, 2026, in Mexico City. The precise circumstances immediately became a matter of dispute that added another layer of intrigue to an already dramatic case. Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum shared a photograph on Instagram showing Wedding at the U.S. Embassy in Mexico City. The image suggested a voluntary surrender, a fugitive who had finally decided to face the charges against him rather than continue running. Such a scenario would imply that the mounting pressure, the record-breaking reward, and perhaps the killing of the federal witness had made Wedding's position untenable, even within the protective embrace of his cartel connections. Wedding's attorney offered a contradictory account. Anthony Colombo stated that his client did not surrender but was captured in an FBI operation conducted on Mexican soil. The distinction matters both for the narrative and for potential legal considerations regarding the circumstances of the arrest. FBI Director Kash Patel addressed reporters upon Wedding's arrival in the United States, emphasizing the collaborative nature of the operation without providing specific details about how the capture unfolded.
Come together to fight crime in all corners of the earth. Today, we are announcing a capture of another FBI's most wanted top 10 fugitive, Ryan Wedding. That makes 6 top 10 FBI captures in 1 year alone. To put that in perspective, that's 2 more than the entirety of the prior administration.
The extradition happened with remarkable speed. Wedding was transported to the United States on the same day he was apprehended, arriving at Ontario International Airport in California in handcuffs. The rapid transfer suggested advanced coordination between American and Mexican authorities, with paperwork and procedures prepared in anticipation of the capture. The press conference announcing the arrest featured an unusual assembly of law enforcement leadership. FBI Director Patel appeared alongside the Commissioner of the RCMP, the Chief of Police of the LAPD, and representatives from the DEA and other agencies. The gathering projected an image of unified international resolve against transnational organized crime.
We told you in November we would find Mr. Wedding, and today that day has arrived. The long arm of the law extends beyond our borders. This marks the 500th capture of an FBI top 10 fugitive since its inception 75 years ago.
The RCMP Commissioner emphasized the necessity of cross-border cooperation in pursuing criminals who operate across multiple jurisdictions.
I would like to start off by thanking Director Patel for inviting me here on this special occasion. It goes without saying that no single agency or nation can combat transnational organized crime alone. The arrest of Ryan Wedding is a result of strong, trusted partnership.
While Wedding's capture dominated headlines, authorities noted that significant work remains. The State Department continues to offer a $2 million reward for information leading to additional arrests of individuals connected to the organization. Right now, multiple co-conspirators are said to still remain, and the investigation continues to trace the networks and assets associated with the drug trafficking enterprise. The missing billions. The federal government claims Ryan Wedding's organization generated over $1 billion annually in drug trafficking revenue. Over roughly 15 years of alleged operation, the cumulative earnings could have reached $5 billion or more. Yet when authorities tallied the assets they had managed to seize, the total came to approximately $55 to $60 million, a substantial sum by ordinary standards, but a mere fraction of the wealth the organization allegedly accumulated. The discrepancy raises an obvious question. Where did the rest of the money go? The seizures documented by federal authorities tell a story of extraordinary accumulation, even if they represent only a sliver of the presumed total. The most spectacular individual item recovered was a 2002 Mercedes CLK GTR Roadster, valued at over $15 million. This vehicle represents one of the rarest automobiles ever produced. Mercedes manufactured only a handful of the road-legal versions, making each one a collector's piece worth more than many people earn in a lifetime.
We've seen mountain of drugs, cash, weapons. We seized the Mercedes-Benz, estimated over $15 million. We seized dozens of motorcycles worth approximately $40 million. And other valuable artwork and jewelry.
The motorcycle collection alone dwarfs the total assets most people will ever accumulate. 62 high-end motorcycles seized during raids in Mexico carried an estimated value of approximately $40 million. This collection suggests someone with both abundant resources and particular enthusiasms, the kind of person who could indulge expensive hobbies without concern for budget constraints. The cash seizures seem almost modest by comparison. Authorities recovered $255,400 in US currency from various locations, plus an additional approximately $100,000 that had been hidden inside furniture during an earlier 2011 arrest. The total of roughly $355,400 in physical currency represents what might be found in a successful small business, not the liquid reserves one would expect from a $1 billion per year enterprise. The cryptocurrency seizures proved more substantial. Authorities recovered more than $3.2 million in various cryptocurrencies that had been used to launder proceeds from the drug operation. However, the investigation revealed that the organization had moved far larger sums through digital currencies. In one documented instance, investigators traced over $207 million transferred via Tether cryptocurrency. The gap between the amounts traced and the amounts recovered suggests that much of the laundered money successfully disappeared into the global financial ecosystem. Additional seizures included artwork, jewelry, Olympic medals, and various other valuable items, collectively described as part of approximately $13 million in physical assets. The presence of Wedding's Olympic medals among the seized property adds a poignant detail, tangible reminders of the legitimate athletic achievement that preceded his alleged transformation into a drug lord. Weapons also figured among the recovered items, including 3 firearms and dozens of rounds of ammunition. While not valuable in the same sense as the vehicles and artwork, these items speak to the violent nature of the enterprise and the need for those involved to protect themselves and enforce their will. The total value of recovered and seized assets comes to approximately $55 to $60 million, excluding the street value of the more than 2,000 kilograms of cocaine captured in various operations. This represents a significant law enforcement achievement, but also a sobering illustration of how much money drug trafficking generates compared to how much authorities can recover. So, where did the billions go? Several possibilities present themselves, and the truth likely involves some combination of all of them. The Sinaloa cartel connection suggests that Wedding operated as part of a larger network that absorbed significant portions of the revenue. Cartel partnerships don't come free. Organizations like the Sinaloa cartel charge for access to their distribution networks, protection, and territorial permissions. Some substantial fraction of the operation's earnings likely flowed to cartel leadership rather than remaining under Wedding's control. Operational expenses consume a portion of any business's revenue, and drug trafficking is no exception. Bribing officials, maintaining security, paying couriers and drivers, renting safe houses, purchasing vehicles for transport, acquiring communication equipment, these costs accumulate quickly when operating at scale across multiple countries. $1 billion in gross revenue does not translate to $1 billion in profit. International asset concealment presents another avenue for the missing funds. The US Treasury has sanctioned Wedding and his associates to freeze accounts accessible through the American financial system, but money held in jurisdictions with less cooperative relationships remains beyond easy reach. Bank accounts in certain countries, real estate held through shell companies, businesses operating as fronts for laundered money, all of these mechanisms can shelter wealth from investigators who lack the legal authority or practical ability to pursue assets across every border. Some portion of the money was undoubtedly spent. 15 years of living as a fugitive while allegedly directing a global criminal enterprise would require substantial ongoing expenditure. Maintaining multiple residences, traveling discreetly, paying for security, supporting whatever lifestyle Wedding led during his decade on the run, these costs don't leave recoverable assets behind. The investigation continues, and authorities have indicated that additional seizures remain possible as they trace the organization's financial networks. International cooperation with Canadian, Mexican, and Colombian authorities may yield additional discoveries as investigators follow money trails through multiple jurisdictions.
Well, I just ask the public not to prejudge the case. The indictment is not evidence. They've presented no evidence of anything that they've accused him of. It's just the indictment's an accusatory, document. And so, the public should keep an open mind.
The defense will undoubtedly contest the government's characterization of the operation's scale and Wedding's role within it. If prosecutors have overstated the size of the enterprise, the gap between alleged earnings and recovered assets becomes easier to explain. A middleman handling tens of millions rather than billions would accumulate wealth roughly proportional to what investigators have actually found. As of the time of this video, Ryan Wedding sits in federal custody awaiting trial on 17 felony counts. He has pleaded not guilty to all charges, but if convicted on the murder-related counts, he faces life imprisonment. So far, the money that fueled Wedding's alleged empire, whether billions or something less, remains largely unaccounted for, dispersed through networks and jurisdictions that may never fully yield their secrets to investigators. What authorities have recovered tells a story of extraordinary wealth, and what they haven't recovered tells a story of how thoroughly the modern global financial system can be exploited by those willing to operate outside the law. So here's something to think about. Do you believe fortunes of this size can truly disappear without inside help? Or does every missing dollar point to a bigger system designed to protect people like Ryan Wedding? Let me know what you think in the comments section. For more videos like this, click on this next card on your screen.